What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspiration Podcast, and today I have a lovely guest named Joyce Meng. And Joyce Meng is a Myers-Briggs personality expert and coach who knows a lot about the art of personalities and how it brings value into people's lives. So I'm really glad I have her on, and I'm super curious about the Myers-Briggs personalities test. So, Joyce, can you introduce yourself to the audience, and how did you get into coaching about personalities?
Yeah, so I'm Joyce. I'm a Master MBTI practitioner and I'm a life coach. And how did I get into the personalities? Well, let's see. I was 14 years old and I had a friend who was really into the personality types and really every system, to be honest. She had ENFP preferences, and she really introduced me to it, and she guessed my type. And she got it right, and then she explained to me her rationale for the system. And I was really hooked from that initial point. It was like the bug bit me, and I couldn't get unbit, so to speak. So
Yeah. Well, you know what's very interesting to me? First of all, we need to break it down because you mentioned ENFP. I'm pretty sure 99% of people who watch this don't know what that is. I'm an INFJ, and so when I did learn about this, I also got incredibly fascinated because I felt like I learned a lot about myself and it explained my personality to a T. So, what is the Myers-Briggs personalities test? What are these different letters like I, F, T, J? What? And yeah, so people can have clarity on that.
yeah, on the most surface level of the instrument, it is 4 dichotomies on the top 10% of the information on the theory. So what I'm sharing right now is just the beginning of the iceberg. So there's extrovert versus introvert. And so this is, are you more oriented and focused on the inner world or the outer world? This is a theory created by Carl Jung and then expanded upon by Isabel Briggs Myers, both a mother and daughter combo. And it's the most widely used personality instrument in organizations aside from the Big Five. And so the Big Five actually became popular because it said, hey, look, we're so valid because we share dimension similarities with the Myers-Briggs. Mm-hmm. So that's like an interesting historical factoid. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to introversion and extroversion, there's actually 4 types of extroversion, which is an extrovert could be someone who loves to get things done in the outer world. An extrovert could be a person who's constantly having new experiences. An extrovert could be a person who just generates a plethora of ideas all the time and sees so many possibilities. And we all have extroverted sides to ourselves. It's just about what is dominant in our personality. So Carl Jung talks about it's where we point our libido. And so it's our life energy. Whereas when it comes to introversion, there's also 4 versions of introversion, which I may not fully go through today, but essentially it's when you're spending time in your inner world with your innermost thoughts or your innermost feelings or innermost impressions of things. And so we all do all things. It's just about what is your preference. You can almost see your Myers-Briggs type, like your left or right-handedness. What is the most natural preference you have? You can almost see them like cognitive predispositions. What are you predisposed to? Yeah. So, yeah, that's the first dimension. Do you have any questions before I go?
No. We're on the first dimension, and as everyone can hear, like there's a lot to break down. But no, I don't really have any questions. I know you the next one, right? Is it N versus S, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a sensing versus intuition, and so this is more about how much are you a conceptual, philosophical, abstract thinker versus you prefer more practical, realistic thoughts and processing. So we all do all things. With sensing types, they tend to like things that are grounded in fact or realistic information. And so sensing types are going to prefer either more hands-on in the here and now activity. So there's 2 kinds of sensing types. There's the types that are very in the present moment, like the future is just hypothetical usually, but the now is the most real. And then the second kind of sensing type is one that learns from their past experiences. So
Mm-hmm.
they're noticing all these past impressions, and they're figuring out what to do next through basing it off of experience, because that's a very concrete pieces of information.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with intuitives, they're actually interested in these concepts, abstractions. They're interested in thinking about what is the meaning of life, what is love, what is beauty, what is free will, is free will an illusion? Like these are all abstract questions,
Mm-hmm.
and they inquire into existence itself. And so intuitives can't help but go there. And
Mm-hmm.
if intuitives don't get to talk about that enough, they feel intuitively starved. They feel
Yeah.
conceptually starved.
Hence why I created this podcast, Ike Inspiration, because I felt starved of deep conversations like this, and I really enjoy having them. So N is like intuition, S is for sensing, and for people who are N, they pretty much live more in the mind, while S is more like you enjoy hiking physical stuff or like seeing stuff more, to an extent, right?
Yeah, experiences, or whether they're hands-on direct experiences or remembering experiences. Yeah,
Mm.
that's sensing.
Okay, and then so then we went over the first two functions, and then the third, right, is T versus F, thinking versus feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so with thinking versus feeling, essentially when it comes to thinking, it's what do you trust the most when you make decisions? So
Mm,
everyone has emotions. Even thinkers have emotions too. So it's not to
sure.
misguide you as to like, oh, only some people feel and other people don't. It's actually saying like, what do you place the most faith in naturally, instinctually when you're
Mm,
weighing a decision?
mm,
So when it comes to thinkers, they weigh more the pros and the cons and the literal factoids. So they're going to focus more on the impersonal pieces of data. And so emotions is just one of the many criteria, one of the many metrics they use to make decisions. And so they might care more about fairness, let's say,
mm-hmm.
over mercy. Whereas, let's say with a feeling type, they like to weigh their decisions based on their own values or other people's values.
Mm,
And so there's tuning into how does this decision resonate with me, make me feel, or how will it make other people feel, or
mm,
how will it resonate with other people's feelings or values.
yeah,
And so feeling types really notice that.
yeah.
And so because they're so tuned in to the emotional experience, they do place more weight on that than a thinker does usually in making decisions on a day-to-day basis. Of
Mm,
course, let's say like a feeler is trying to figure out what house they want to buy, they might use thinking for these scenarios as well, because especially for long-term decisions, people will want to include both thinking and feeling. We want to include all
mm,
parts. We're just saying what comes most naturally to you when you're not under stress.
mm.
So
Interesting. Yeah, this is actually very interesting. So I identified as an INFJ, but when I was younger, I actually identified as an INTJ. But one of the things you mentioned is like it's not really like a binary thing. Oh, I'm only a thinker, or I'm only a feeler. I think one of the things is like, oh, you might be like 70% towards one side, like you might be 70% introversion or like 30% intuition or whatnot, right? It's not really like a binary or 100% one way or the other, right?
yeah, definitely. And it all depends on nurture and nature. If you had a family where a lot of people are feelers and you're a thinker, you're going to learn the skill set of how to include feeling in your decisions as well too. So we
Mm,
all do all things, but most people do actually have a preference. And INFJs are usually actually quite balanced with thinking and feeling too. Like when you look at the cognitive functions, they're quite even in that way. So like INFJs, according to the theory, they're more focused on other people's emotions.
yes, that's me.
Yeah. So they might not always be in tune with their own, depending on the INFJ.
And it's very confusing. So when you look at INTJ, right, that's thinking, and the dominant function of, I mean, like one of the things that I used to look up is like they're really into chess, and I played chess all the time, so I just assumed I was an INTJ. And then as I gotten older, I started to realize I'm really in touch with my feelings, and when I make major decisions in life, it it's more towards a feeling, an intuitive feeling, and less because it's a logical matter. Like this podcast, I feel like was just a general intuitive feeling. There was no, hey, if X or Y or Z, then I'm gonna get 100,000 views and I'm gonna connect with Joyce. It wasn't really calculated. It's just like it feels right. Or like when I chose to move to another city, it's kind of like I just feel like moving to Atlanta feels right for me. So then I started to identify more of that dominant function. So then I know you mentioned the first three function, and then the last one is I think judgment and perception, right? What's that about?
Yeah, we'll definitely go into that. I just had final comments on the thinking
Sure.
and feeling. So yeah, when I have INTJs or let's say ESTJs, they are thinking types in the Myers-Briggs on my podcast. They'll actually say like, Joyce, what are the metrics of your videos? They'll say like, I
Yeah.
want to know all of the things, all of the scoring.
Yeah.
And so like that's a classical thinker, and feeling types can do that as well. It's just not something that energizes us as
Mm-mm.
much. Like if you're doing something in preference with your type, you're going to feel more in your flow state, and
Yeah.
that's how you know that it's more of you. So feeling types can be really good at chess actually, or
Yeah.
other thinking pursuits. Like you could have a feeler who does great at math as well too.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just about, let's say if you're a complete natural self, what brings you energy?
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't have that self-awareness when I was younger to really understand what you're saying. Until I got older, everything you said started making sense. It's actually funny you mentioned that statistical thing because as I've gotten older, I pay a lot more attention to what drains me and what excites me, Joyce. And when you mentioned that statistical thing, when I send out invites to podcasts, some people respond, some people don't, whatever, or some people are really interested. And then there's some people who respond, hey, what are your stats? Hey, like how many views are you getting per episode? And then I completely get drained. If someone responds to me like that, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I even want that type of person who's immediately thinking about that. And then I kind of get like I lose interest or like that kind of drains me.
Yeah, so there is some self awareness that knowing your MBTI type does give you. So
Yeah.
that person was probably a thinking type, and they're
Yeah.
like, "You give me the thinking metrics, I'll be energized to be on your
Yeah,
podcast."
exactly. Yeah. 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 Okay. And
Yeah,
then the next one.
yeah, judging and perceiving. So when it comes to these dimensions, it's about how do you like to organize your life. So with judging types, they tend to like to order things externally. So they, let's say, are more likely to like schedules, routines, especially if they're SJ types, let's say. But these J types tend to organize externally, so inwardly they can free roam.
Mm.
Whereas P types like to be more emergent and free flowing externally
Mm.
and more spontaneous externally. So
Mhm.
the P type can be organized internally. So it's like you
Mm.
like to organize your internal world or organize your external world more.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So with P types, they don't want to be trapped. They don't want to lose their freedom. They want to keep
Yeah.
their options open. So perceiving types will try to keep the options open for as long as possible, and then they'll choose at the end because they don't
Mm.
want to miss out on an option.
Gotcha.
Whereas for a J type, they usually make decisions as soon as they get the information
Yeah,
because
definitely.
they want to get that closure.
Yeah.
So a judging type will want to close the loop. They're a little bit more organized as a whole and a little bit more decisive as a whole than P
Mm.
types. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So as a J, I just want to bring a picture of like what it's like for me, who's a J type, because I would consider myself someone who's very structured and disciplined. Every day at 6:30 a.m., I wake up, I journal, and I read my Bible. And then afterwards, I drink a cup of water, and I feel like I have a set of decisions that I'm already making that I know I'm gonna make to like not really just have like useless thinking or feel like I'm all over the place. But then I've met people in my life with that P function who I've noticed value freedom, and like I'm really a stickler about time. I'll be like, hey, we're gonna meet at like 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then I'm like, why aren't you here at like 9 p.m.? And they're like, bro, who cares? I'm just here. Like that kind of ignores me, and that's something I have to get better at. But I've noticed they probably don't have that like J or like structured personality where they just want to organize. And then I'm sure if you identified friends like that too. I don't know if you ever had some type of reaction to that, but yeah, I've kind of learned that if things don't go the way I plan, that could frustrate me, especially with that
Mm.
dominant judgment thing. But my self awareness of that is allowing me to cope with that, so I don't get as oh my gosh, you're not here at 9 p.m. or like, why didn't you say do what you said you're gonna do? Stuff like that.
Yeah, whereas P types will have a loose plan. If they do set a plan and they won't really follow the plan, they'll be
Yeah,
like, throw it away.
and it wouldn't bother them. But if I set a plan and it doesn't go my way, I get like, what went wrong? Like, something feels off. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why learning about MBTI, it helps you have more compassion for other people. It's
Yeah.
like they're not purposefully trying to piss you off.
Yeah.
They just are being themselves and they don't realize how that's affecting you.
Yes, Joyce. And that's probably the biggest value add that I've learned. I mean, there's just so much things that you can learn from the personality type, but I think it helped me understand the nuanced differences in people's lives so that you can be more, like you said, more forgiving and compassionate of others. When I first figured out about this test, I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody can explain my weird personality or like, why I'm so different. Because I always felt like I was a bit different in the role. Not like I'm special, but that I do things different. And I felt like the IMJ helped me understand that. So then once I figured out about this test, Joyce, I started going to a bunch of different friends and I'm like, hey, you gotta like take this test, take this test. And what I've realized is that most people, at least in my opinion, aren't that interested unless they're introverted or have some type of intuitive I and N. Like then I realized I feel like in my experience they're interested in it. My extroverted friends or people who may not be that intuitive or live in their mind, they're like, oh cool, whatever, I'm an ESTJ or whatever, and then they don't seem to be as interested. Do you feel like that's the case with you? Like you're an INFJ, you literally dedicate your life to work like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the biggest demographic in the MBTI community is the NFs. So the NFs
Yeah.
are the most interested of all types in the MBTI. Then the NT types are also very into it. So like intuitives in general see this as like mind candy. They love to learn about this, like theory
Yeah.
for theory's sake. The NT types are sometimes a little bit more skeptical. So you have to get past their initial skepticism to get them into it. Whereas
Yeah.
NFs, because we can see it in people already, we don't have that layer of like questioning as much as an NT
Mm.
type would. We're like, oh, I can even understand this and how it plays out in people because we can sense the vibes or understand people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I find that like you can have the occasional ESTJ into MBTI. Like I find sometimes people are also into it for almost learning how to socially engineer people because they don't understand people. But I don't mean it in a malicious
No,
way.
no,
They
no,
just
no. I
need a
know what you mean.
framework to
Yeah.
know how to navigate people.
No, it's a very interesting thing because as I've gotten older, I really didn't realize how much socializing is a skill in itself, and like eye contact, what to say, when to say, how to say it. These are all different things that are like important to say, and that comes naturally to some people, and others is kind of like, okay, this is a skill. I have to like really improve it. I have to analyze it, and I think for some people, there, yeah, I can see like people with that T function are probably analyzing everything. They're probably the type of people who struggle with dates too, I would imagine, or like finding dates because they're overthinking everything or whatnot.
Mm. Yeah, I totally think so as well too. So
Yeah,
it's the T types that are making MBTI into a formula or putting it into a spreadsheet to try to understand it, like the
yeah.
fingers.
Yeah. So as a coach, like I know you coach multiple sets of people in this type of realm, and what do you feel like? How do you add value to them, and what has your experience been like training others about the personality test?
Yeah, I find that people usually come to coaching the most to improve their inferior function. So
Mm.
like the Myers-Briggs talks about the cognitive functions. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the Carl Jung roots come from. And so let's say for example an ENTJ is going to come to coaching to learn more about feeling and how to get better at that. And
Mm.
and an ESTP is going to come to coaching to figure out their intuition. So people always want to figure out what is their opposing part of themselves.
Mm,
So Carl Jung basically talks about like when you learn your personality type, it's the way that you individuate. This is the
mm,
way that you become whole by figuring out what parts of yourself you're naturally repressing because you're overdoing other things. So like let's say if someone is an INFP, they're going to lean into overvaluing or overfeeling, and so then they're
mm.
not going to tap into getting things done or that thinking side of things.
Yeah.
So then Carl Jung would say like individuation is something to incorporate that inferior function, trying to even out your personality. It's almost like because some people are naturally right-handed, they use their right hand so much that they can't even sign with their left hand. So
Mm,
a part of the goal is becoming more well-rounded in some senses.
mm.
But then there are other schools of thought too. Like if you look at the Clifton Strengths Finder, they
Okay.
say to double down on your strengths. So like some
Mm,
people will say make sure that your weaknesses don't undermine you as a person. So just get good enough at your weaknesses so that they don't ruin your life. But then
mm.
after that, really double down on your strengths because that's where your biggest natural flow and your biggest bang for your buck will come from. So both
Yeah.
can be true.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm definitely a proponent of leaning towards what you're naturally good at, so things don't feel like you're like everything's a resistance, you know. And so you mentioned like we focus mostly on the Myers-Briggs personalities test, but then I know there's other ones like you mentioned the Big Five, and I think there's the Enneagram test as well, right? Like what are those tests, and is it similar? Is it like different? How do they operate compared to the Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, did you mention the Enneagram and one other one? I might have
Yeah,
not.
I think you did you
The
the
Big
big
Five?
five. Yeah,
Yeah. I have a really unpopular opinion of this. So
yeah.
I believe that the Big Five is so heavily correlated with the Myers Briggs that
Okay,
it's like almost the Myers Briggs is your cognition, it's the why, and then the Big Five is your behaviors. What is the manifestation of the traits that show because of that? So
okay.
you'll see like with the extroversion and introversion, there's a huge correlation.
Mm,
So essentially, Big Five talks about with extroverts, they tend to be more expressive, more optimistic, more aggressive too. So like you can really be on a scale of extroversion versus introversion. So these are like the common behaviors associated with extroverts.
oh, okay.
Does that
Is
make
this
sense?
is this the one that also has the one with conscientiousness?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did take that test. I just didn't know it was like the Big Five. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Big Five.
Oh, okay. And what are
Yeah.
those? What is the Big Five? What is the Big Five like? Isn't there like big like five like traits or something? Right? Am I
Yeah, there is like one of them is openness.
okay?
So it's correlated with intuition and perceiving in the Myers Briggs.
Okay.
So intuitives tend to be more open to different kinds of ideas or ways of thinking or shifting perspectives with thoughts. So they're more open that way. P types, so perceiving types, are more open as well because they're open to new experiences and more open to more options in general. So sometimes a few dimensions of the Myers Briggs is correlated with the Big Five. Like you'll see, there's also agreeableness.
Mm,
Feeling is sometimes correlated with this, although you
mm,
can have agreeable thinkers that are introverts. Because a part of being agreeable is also an introvert who's conflict avoidant. It's not necessarily because they're a feeler.
yeah.
So there's many reasons for it. And then we can look at neuroticism. So that's when you take 16 personalities and it gives you the T or the A. That's
Mhm.
neuroticism in the Big Five.
Oh yeah.
Like
I
16
rem-
personalities is just a Big Five test, to be
yeah,
honest.
I remember taking that test, and I like I think I ranked high in like openness, very low in neurotic, and I was very high in the conscientious field. And for me, that was very helpful for me because I don't think the Myers-Briggs talks much about conscientiousness, but for those who are listening, pretty much conscientiousness is the ability to just get things done, like and just like kind of do things pretty quickly. And for me, when I learned about that, it made me realize that some people aren't as conscientious, and what might be easy to me or simple to others might not be for the same. And again, like you said, it just helps me understand people on a deeper fascination, because one thing I feel like is like I like to get things done quickly, and I would make the mistake of projecting that conscientiousness onto other people. I'll be like, "Oh, just send me this email. It's only gonna take me like 2 minutes, and or something simple." And then it wouldn't happen. And again, all of this helps me become more patient. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, I think that is a great test, the Big Five.
Yeah, conscientiousness is correlated with the Myers-Briggs. It's with the J.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, a lot of J types in the Myers-Briggs are very, very high on conscientiousness.
okay.
And people who do not have ADHD are also going to be very high on conscientiousness
Who
too.
don't have ADHD or do have ADHD?
Don't. Yeah. If you do have ADHD, there's a possibility you could also be lower on conscientiousness too.
You want to know what's weird, Joyce? I do have ADHD. But hey, I guess it's not, again, it's not, I don't think it's a one size fit all thing, but that's interesting. So, one thing that I saw that you did on your channel, Joyce, which I thought was like incredibly fascinating, was you bring like a bunch of people with a whole different different personalities or same personalities, and you would just have them like talk and have conversations. Where did you come up with that idea, and how, like, what is the process of making that work look like?
Oh, because I really like the idea of qualitative information. So I I wanted to know from the person's mouth how their experience is as their type. So like you can read a description online, but it's still lacking information because only 10% of information is through words and verbal information.
Yeah,
90% is body language and
sure.
also other things as well too. So one, I wanted to hear it from the type themselves. It's almost like they say to learn about a Native American, you don't pretend to know how their experience is like. You ask them, how is your experience? And
Mm-hmm.
then they'll tell you how they're actually like instead of trying to guess what it is. It's like it honors the other person's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a learning. It's for my own enjoyment as
Yeah.
well. Like I wanted to make friends in the MBTI space because I was feeling
Oh.
kind of isolated where I was located. So it was a way of connection as well
Mm.
too. And
Yeah.
it's like informal scientific interviewing. So basically in science they give the same questions over and over again to get qualitative data. I don't really do exactly that method. I ask different questions all the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
still follow the methodology of hearing what people have to say and collecting qualitative stories. So it's
Mm.
like semi scientifically gathered data.
Yeah.
So it's fun that way.
So from INFJ to INFJ, I think you could relate to this, because you might deal with the aspect of isolation or loneliness. And I'm guessing you probably enjoy spending a lot of the time alone, but then you may find it difficult to find people who can relate to you. How do you deal with that? And what does that like look like for you?
Yeah, when it comes to loneliness and isolation, I think from a young age, I didn't really have much friends because I didn't
Mm.
feel like I could have the kind of conversations I wanted with them. So I just
Yeah.
didn't really interact at all.
Yeah.
Because I like to have like very personal, dive into a person's soul, their mind, their psyche, like their mental
Yeah.
landscape, like what they think about the world or whatever I'm interested in at that moment. Um, and I really felt older than most kids my age, and so I would try to talk with teachers or like adults, but then I refused to talk to like people my age until now. Whereas I think I
Yeah.
really have the kind of people I want to be surrounded with.
So are we like old souls or something? Because I'm literally the same way. Like when I was in seventh grade, I just had when I was in like middle school, I would literally just gravitate towards the seniors. Like and like or and like when I was in college, I would watch YouTubers of people who are like double my age. Now in my podcast, most people I have on that I'm interested in tend to be older than me, wiser than me. Because I don't know, I'm
Mm.
just interested in people older than me. Is that like an INFJ thing? Is that just a Joyce Meng thing? What's that about?
Yeah. Oh, when it comes to talking to older souls, I think it's people like come from multiple things. Yeah, INFJs tend to be older souls. If you've had trauma at a younger age, you can also be more old than people your age as well
Oh,
too. There's like so many things that create the same kind of output. I think older souls too. Also, they are just more naturally philosophical than most people
yeah.
their age as well too.
Yeah.
They kind of have like that quarter life crisis like way earlier than most people. Like people need a midlife crisis to reevaluate their life, and some people can
Oh
have
my
it
God.
from a
You're
very
like
very
you're literally speaking to my soul. Like when I was younger, and I've been having existential crises, and I dramatic. It sounds dramatic, but I would just literally be obsessed with pondering the meaning of the world. What are we doing? Why are we here? Who am I speaking to? What's my purpose? Like these were like my inner conversations. Like what am I here for? Reading the Bible and learning about the INFJ and doing all these different things has helped me decrease that. But I've had those existential bouts, and I'm like, and I think the worst thing about having those existential bouts for me personally is when you're just dealing with it alone and you had no other outlet to talk about it because it seemed like no one else cared much about it as you. Like I don't know if you can relate, but that's how I always felt like growing up. I'm like, why are we talking about surface level stuff like Kylie Jenner, like doing some I don't know random thing? Why are we talking about like the deeper questions in life? Like what are we here for? Who are we supposed to be? Like what kind of impact am I supposed to make? And I felt like I was the only one who's really interested in that. Hence why I created this podcast. You know, can you relate to that feeling or no?
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that feeling for sure. It's a frustration. Like people seem very short-sighted, and then it can create like, oh, I don't want to talk to people because they appear too short-sighted. And then it creates almost like a judgmentalness that I don't want to carry. So like I've really had to let go of judgmentalness as I grow older. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I hear that, and I think one of the things that I just had to just accept about myself personally is like I'm a lot more interested in just talking about concepts, ideas, philosophies than people. I think most people like I mean than people. People I think a lot of people enjoy talking about people, what they're doing, like the social interactions. But I rather just really focus on the bigger vision and abstract concepts. And I felt like learning that about myself has made it easier to accept that because I've noticed once I start talking about, oh, look at what P Diddy did, and like, or R Kelly went to jail, I start to lose interest. I may engage the conversation because I enjoy my friend, and I'll listen to him, and that feeling type in me won't like say, shut up, I don't care about R Kelly. I'll entertain it, but I don't get engaged in the conversation.
yeah, it makes total sense for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do not like talking about the pop culture characters at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
unless it's like analyzing their psychology in any sort of way, like why did
okay.
they do it that kind of way?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, and like this is cool because you mentioned like having that problem of being analytical or judgmental, and I felt like from time to time I've had that critique too, especially when dating. When I was dating, people would be like, man, like why are you looking at me like that, like you're analyzing me, or like I feel like you're not, I feel like you're trying to read me instead of trying to like actually be with me. Do you know what I'm understanding? Do you feel like that has been a problem with you, or like, or like that judgmentalness, or do you like, do you know what I'm trying to say, or like whatnot? Like, because you kind of have a coldness to you too. At least I don't know you like that, but it kind of looks like, is she reading me or what's she doing? Like, like, yeah,
Yeah, I am known for psychoanalyzing people. I
yeah.
found that when it comes to like falling in love, I really have to fall in love with a person's mind to fall in love with them as a person.
Oh,
Like I have to appreciate like their mental landscape, how they make sense of things, how they think about things for me to like love them. And so like
mm.
I've always struggled with like deeply falling in love until now in my life, I would say.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, and so I would say like previously, I would kind of like men would be interested in me and then I'd try to psychoanalyze them because that would interest me, and then because they like me they'd be fine with me psychoanalyzing them, and then I'm like, I'm kind of like using people for my own interest. That's not cool. And so yeah, there was like a cynical judgmentalness that I had, that
Yeah,
almost like I couldn't find someone who could meet me at my level.
yeah.
Now I don't have that anymore, but
That's
it was
awesome.
lonely. Yeah, and so I was judgmental, but I'm going from a frame of like maybe coldly judging people to being more embodied in life itself.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. I love to hear that. So, for you, what does that change look like? The embodiment, feeling more embodied and immersed in life, and being less judgmental. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's saying more yes and to life. So it's having like a more
Oh,
improv mindset with things, and
okay.
also meeting people who I genuinely enjoy talking to. That's
Mm,
actually changed my world a lot. And um, just living, going out, trying things,
yeah.
mm, and just appreciating things, asking yourself, is this a moment enough for me? And yeah, it
Mm,
is enough for me. So
mm,
being
mm.
satisfied and acknowledging that I am satisfied.
Yeah, that's powerful. I like to hear that. I feel like I've been on a similar journey too. Of I think for me as a man, I probably haven't really done the best job of acknowledging my feelings, especially as an African male. I felt like I grew up in an environment where feelings weren't really prioritized, and that's okay. I'm not, I still love my parents, but I felt like I can never really be like, oh, this is how I feel, or this is why I'm doing that. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I really had to be a lot more in tune with that. And I feel like the more in tune I've been with my feelings and intuition, the happier and better my life gets. Because I feel like we have a unique gift that, at least for me, whenever I do trust that intuitive feeling, great things come out of it. And like I can't remember the last time I regretted following it.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Um, yeah, like I found that like being judgmental or cynical can like numb out your own feelings, and so I actually the way to live more is to be less cynical. So like I
Mhm.
found I've gotten more in touch with like that embodied feeling side through letting go of cynicism.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's
and,
awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. So, as you start to coach others toward as a master practitioner, like what other how exactly, or like what are you doing to provide value for your clients? Like, because you're the first personality coach I've ever talked to. Like, I don't really know what y'all do or what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when it comes to providing value for my clients, I bring them through different models. So MBTI is not just the model I use
Okay.
solely. I go from Enneagram, Big Five, Clifton Strengths as the personality systems I mainly use, but then I'll go to NLP models or I'll go to ones that are used in internal family system, CBT, and just really using whatever works in that specific moment with that individual and customizing my approach. So that the
Mm,
value comes in my ability to meet the person where they're at. So
mm,
I'm not trying to impose a framework on them. I'm seeing what is emerging from our conversation together and then bringing that framework to the forefront. So
mm.
there are three sorts of values that I tend to help people with. So people who are lost and stuck in their life, they
Okay.
keep burning down these bridges in their life. I help them with figuring out what pattern is making them burn down the bridges in their life so that they're content with their life and they don't have to keep door slamming people or leaving places, leaving countries, or leaving jobs, that I'm able to help them with being okay with where they're at. That's one
Mm,
of the ways I provide value.
okay.
The other ones too is helping people through their inner darkness. I'm very good at navigating
Mm,
them through that. I help people career wise. So I'm a
mm,
certified career coach, and the
okay.
MBTI and the Enneagram are actually very helpful tools to use in career coaching.
Okay.
And then I help people through relationship coaching.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, a lot of the reason why people like the Myers Briggs is that they want to improve a relationship in their life, whether it's with their best friend, it's with their lover, it's with their children. People are looking to get along with others better. So the Myers Briggs helps us understand how it's like to be someone else and
Mm,
how to get along with other people. So those
mm.
are the high level overview of the things that I do.
Yeah. No, well, that's really valuable. It seems like you help people in multiple different ways. Like, and you mentioned the inner darkness in people, uh, helping people with getting lost, and then helping people navigate their careers, which I think are all very useful things. What does that look like when you're helping someone like who may feel lost in life? What or perhaps like doesn't know what to do with their career, or what like is it like a talk session? What are some of the things you're doing to help them to the best of your ability?
Yeah, I usually talk with them through it, and I also give them action steps, or they assign themselves the action step themselves. I guide them through the dialogue. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's almost like mentoring, coaching, teaching. I mix it all depending on what a person needs. So
Okay,
it's
okay.
a
Yeah,
fluid
yeah.
approach.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. And so and then you and like you're Myers-Briggs personality coach, and which I also thought was pretty interesting because I was like, what do you have to do to like become like that? Like, is there a certain certification, or do you have to do a certain level of schooling? Because when I saw that you were an MBTI coach, I was like, oh, what is that? What does that embody?
Yeah, I'm certified with the Myers Briggs company. I have a separate coaching certification. It's with the International Coaching Federation, which is the biggest body of. It's a non for profit that
Yeah.
almost every coach who is a coach is certified by. So it's the most well known coaching uh, organization, and that was the credentialing pathway. And because you have to get a lot of education to get that coaching certification with the ICF, I know a bunch of random things like a Master NLP practitioner and stuff like that because I had to do it to get to my end aim, which is the coaching certification. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was my. I think that was what you're asking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. You answered the question. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean that's interesting. It sounds like there's all types of valuable skills that can be learned from as a result of I guess knowing thyself and knowing yourself. Uh, yeah, for me personally, when I learned about my INFJ personality type, it brought a lot of clarity about the type of skill sets that I'm also have a high proclivity towards. Because I didn't really make the connection, but when I was reading about it, it was like, oh, people who are INFJs are pretty good at communication and are verbally talented. Hence this podcast. Now I feel like it's something I'm naturally good at, and then also writing apparently is something that INFJs are really good at. And I didn't really understand how good of a writer I was until really diving into that.
Yeah, so it really gives you like clarity on your strengths, and so you
Yeah,
can own them more. So it's like, oh wow, this place sees me. And
yeah,
sometimes the Myers Briggs is the first place some INFJs can feel fully understood. It's like,
yeah.
wow, I felt like nowhere really understood me until I read this profile, and it's like, so me, wow.
Yeah, that was like that's why for me I got really excited about it because that was like the first time, like, and I think I was like maybe 24, 25, 26. Yeah, and I was like, when I read about that, I was like, I finally feel understood, like to a T, like, and I don't think I've had that feeling, like, at least socially. And then for me, it was a huge game changer because it allowed me to accept myself and understand how I want to navigate this world moving forward instead of really questioning what I stand for or what I like to do or how or do I want to fit in with other people or social crowds. I think that's something I think I was always good at following what I wanted to do, but I was always disturbed by how what I wanted to do wasn't really popular or like what other people wanted to do. Hence, like going out to the club or like like I'm not a club person at all. I hate going to the club, but in college that was like the super popular thing to do. My introverted self just wanted to stay home all day or have like deep, meaningful conversations like all day, and whatnot. Like if to be honest, my favorite part about going out was sometimes people would get drunk, and you know how when you're drunk, you're your true self. And then I start asking them introspective questions about themselves, like, "Hey, so how are you really feeling?" Then when people are drunk, they would start to tell the truth. That was more interesting to me than like whatever, like partying or whatever. I was like, oh, now you're kind of more. You know how people are more open to being themselves when they're drunk. Like, yeah, that was more interesting to me than like the actual like partying or whatever. Like, you know.
Yeah, you get to psychoanalyze them and their deepest motivations for sure. That's my candy right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your
Yeah,
candy, yeah. It's fun, and so almost like it's like being a life coach is like being a therapist,
it
right?
it well it kind of is.
Kind of.
Yeah, for an INFJ it is. Yeah, by accident.
Okay.
Because like people will open up to you about their life in ways that like it's almost like you're better than a therapist for them at certain times too. Uh,
Mm.
because some people want to do action steps towards their certain goal, and I think people feel more comfortable telling INFJs their whole life, and so they trust you more as well too.
And
Um,
you and sorry, and I know something that you might be able to relate to, because I could tell you're a naturally good listener, and you have an inclination to want to listen to me more than talk, because I'm trying to have you talk, but that's okay. And you probably have had conversations with people where they're doing 95% of the talking, you're just listening. Maybe you ask a question or two, and then at the end of the conversation, they're like, "Oh wow, like you're a really great conversationalist," or "That was a great conversation," and in my mind, I'm like, I didn't say anything, but they enjoyed the conversation because they like. Can you relate to that, or like, do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Yeah,
you're like I totally relate, and it's like you're unraveling their insides. They do feel very seen. I
yeah,
think all the NF types are like unpaid counselors to people, and so we
yeah,
excel at making people feel seen, heard, and held. Although INFJs don't oftentimes get that back unless it
yeah,
takes a very special person to turn that back on the INFJ.
yeah. That's actually a very good. That's actually a very interesting point. Yeah, I feel like we're so comfortable with listening to people. We don't give ourselves an outlet to actually really talk or express that. And if I'm being honest, I felt like that was a personal weakness of mine. I felt like I was so good at giving value to others, listening to others. I didn't create a space for me to be listened to enough. And so, yeah, that's something that I feel like I'm working on and getting better at, like really understanding the power of my words. That's something that I pray for often. I don't think I think I'm a great listener, but sometimes I feel like my words I don't value them enough. So I'm working on that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And so I think we teach people how to treat us. And so sometimes I think INFJs can ask the initial first question, and uh, we may not always share about ourselves because when we grew up, no one really cared to know about ourselves. And so we just got used to not really sharing about ourselves.
And do you know what I think it is? I think no one cared the way we cared about ourselves, the way we wanted to be cared about. At least, for example, like the way we show how we care for other people is we ask a lot of questions. Like I'm sure you oh, what was that about? Oh, how did you feel like that? Oh, why did you do that? I felt like if I opened up to people, I didn't get the same level of questioning or interest in my personality, and that shut me off.
Yeah, they didn't ask me like why I did certain things. They'd
Yeah.
like ask maybe surface things like what do you do for work or
Yeah.
these other questions. And I'm like, oh, why do you need to know these object level things about me?
Yeah. 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 So
Yeah.
it's interesting, Joyce. So for you as you navigate like being a personality coach, like what has been some of the most rewarding things about helping others discover themselves and like their unique personality?
Yeah, I feel very empowered because I'm able to help people with self acceptance because the Myers Briggs teaches them here's what you are and you don't have to feel ashamed of it. Or like people might notice that they're a misfit in their life, but they don't know what flavor of misfit. So I give them some sense of
Mm.
exposure on that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I guess what was the question again? I just wanted to
No,
make
just
sure.
yeah. What? How do you just like in terms of like discovering like what has been like some of the most rewarding things about helping people discover their personalities and like their unique selves? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's that I get paid to have deep conversation with people. I get to
Mm,
ask them whatever question I want, and I get paid for it. This is
that's
like
awesome.
my lifestyle. It's very rewarding because I can be very soul piercing, and it's
Mm,
rewarded in this context. So
mm.
yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess yeah, we both have a yearning for deep conversations. Hence why I created a podcast. Hence why you became a life coach, so you can feel things. Because I feel like all of life, there's people who are just walking mindlessly and putting on a mask. That's what I always feel like. Like for example, when you're working in a corporate like industry, like out here like black people or like people who are just putting on some type of code switching voice. I'm like, I know that's not you, bro. Like that's not you, bro. Like, I feel like throughout all my life, I'm just constantly seeing people putting on a mask, and like everything in part of me, in like my intuitive feelings, like I just want to take off the mask and like I want you to be you. That's it. That's why I asked you before the podcast. Please just be yourself, and that's all I can ask for. I don't, I've had always had that deep yearning.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't want to live your life regretting not being yourself. Like they ask people, what are the common things that people say before they die on their deathbed?
Mm.
Like, oh, I was never myself my entire life, and
Oh
most people
wow.
answer that way. There's a Mary Oliver quote. She says, "Listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it life?" And so I think that, yeah, a lot of people are living, breathing barely, and so I want people to have permission to be their deepest, most meaningful self, for sure.
Yeah, and shout out to you. Like I think the personality test, I really encourage those, especially for people who are misfits, to really check it out because I think it will just give you a deeper understanding of what you're about, what you like, what you're interested in. And don't get me wrong, I don't one of my, if I'm being honest, George, one of my personal critiques or things that I sort of dislike about that whole personality community, because once I figured out about it, I went on Reddit. I felt like people were too self-identified with it, and they almost just got obsessed with it and started correlating everything with it. I don't necessarily think this personality defines you. Like I'm more than this. I'm a black man. I'm a pharmacist. But I think it does help you like get clarity on what who you are. Do you understand what? Do you feel like? Do you ever feel like some people are like, oh, I'm an IMJ, and like this I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some people they're a little too obsessed with it. Maybe it was just me. Like,
Yeah, I think sometimes people could get so obsessed with it, it becomes this one dimension of their personality, which
yeah,
also turns me off as well too. It's kind of like if you meet someone who's a mother who only is a mother and that's it. And it's
yeah,
like, wow, you have no personality outside of taking care of your kids. That's actually like not a life to live. Like you want to be more than just one thing. And that's not to put down mothers, it's not to put down MBTI. It's just that we are many different roles and many different personalities. And
mm,
when we just live one of them, we're simplifying ourselves, we're reducing
yeah,
ourselves down. And that's dangerous because then we're not exploring ourselves anymore. So
mm,
the most important thing in life is to constantly be growing. There's a
mm,
quote how the you yesterday is not the same you today.
mm,
So you can be, of course, an INFJ, but that's one of the thousands of things that make you up. It's just like
yeah,
if someone's right-handed, do you tell everyone I'm right-handed that you meet? Like sometimes you do if it makes sense, but it's not the only thing about you. You would not
yeah,
identify with your preference right there. So
yeah,
but I can understand the appeal. Like when a person has felt understood for the first time in their life,
yeah,
they can become too obsessed with it, and then they swing back to being normal about it. So they need that
yeah.
period of obsessing so that they can calm down.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Sometimes
anyway,
I guess it's a necessity. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I think human beings we're so complex, and there's just so much to us, and to just simplify in a personality, I just think we'll be doing so much injustice to the beautiful complexity of human beings. Like for me, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a real estate investor, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm hopefully gonna be a parent one day. I'm a Christian. Like these are all different facets of me that like that outside. Well, it is a part of an IMJ, but I think it will be silly to just be like, oh, like I'm an IMJ, so this is solely who I am. I don't know. For me, like, I think some of it is because I think we are like considered like the weirdest personality type, right? Like, or is
oh,
that not true?
not anymore. No. So
Oh no.
ENTJ is the rarest now, based
Okay.
on the official MBTI statistics. So
Oh, okay. So what are we now? What are we? Are we like second or third? Like,
we're second or third. Yeah. Uh-huh.
okay, okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right. When I initially was doing the research, I was like, we were like the rarest, and I felt like a lot of people took pride in that. Like, oh, I'm so special. But now it's ENTJ. Good to know. So, how did that change, by the way? Because is there like is it like how, I'm just curious. How did that change? Because like I don't think people personalities are morphing, or is it, or was there like a miscalculation? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, Well,
Yeah, it's the population demographic. So
okay.
they have the official Myers-Briggs, which is an assessment that costs around $50, and then they had people take it worldwide or in specific locations in specific industries,
Oh,
and it's the statistic. So
oh,
SJ types are the most popular, and then SP types after that. I think is it 40% of the population is SJ types, and then
okay.
I believe like 30% is SP types, and so 30% of the population is actually intuitives, and
Okay.
so yeah, it's actually quite rare to be an INFJ if you take the official Myers Briggs, which is a paid assessment. So
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know if I took that. Okay, yeah. So we may, me, I'm imagining some people are watching this and they're like, oh, like this is really interesting. Like I want to learn about this. I want to take the test. I remember I told some of my friends about it, and the first question was like, "Hey, how do I start? Where do I learn? What?" There's when you go online, you tap on these online tests. There's like 1,000 of them. Like, where do I start? Which one's legit? Like, how do I start this? How do I start
yeah,
my journey?
so they all have their calculation problems. So
Yeah.
I would say there's no perfect source, but it's a great starting place. So John's personality test is, I think, around 20 questions. It's very easy to take.
Okay.
You can just search it up. And then the second one I would recommend is Keys to Cognition by Dario Nardi. And so that's something to start with as well too. Now, some people who take the quiz may not get their first preferred type or like their actual type on the first assessment. So
Yeah.
you might need to explore a little bit to really figure out your type. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. First of all, yeah, I can relate to that because when I first did this, like the very first time, I said I was an INTJ, and something about that didn't sit 100% right with me. And then the more exploration I did, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely an INFJ. So with those, with like the John, those two tests that you mentioned, is that for like the Myers Briggs personalities test, like is that or what or is that like the Big Five or like what does that like
Oh,
what does that lead you like? Yeah.
it's like a free version of the Myers-Briggs test, so
Oh,
it's not really the Myers-Briggs. If you wanted to take the official test, you can go to the Myers-Briggs company and you can take it for around $50 to $100 depending on how extensive you want the report to be. Now,
oh,
I also administer them as well too. If you want to email me, I can
oh.
the
Wait,
real test as
wait,
well.
wait. What does that look like? So, like, you give the test yourself? Like,
I
oh,
give them, yeah. So I'm because
oh,
I'm a
cool. That's
master
so cool.
MBTI practitioner, I give people the official test.
Wait, like, email them or like you ask them questions? Like, what is that?
So I email them the official test, and then later we debrief together.
Oh,
So
that's so cool, man. I didn't even know that. Yeah, that must be an honor to be able to teach people about that. Well, yeah, I mean, Joyce, this has been great, and for people who may be interested in working with you, because you seem like a great listener and you seem like you have a good gift of understanding and allowing people to just be themselves. Where can people reach out to you and learn more about your services?
yeah, I have a website called joycemengcoaching.com. I also have a YouTube channel. It's Joyce Meng 22. And so it's really just my name and MBTI and you'll find it. So there I host panel interviews, people of many different types talking to each other. It's a fun time. So yeah, I'm always looking for new panelists, so always feel free to reach out if you want. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, Joyce, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast and have this conversation and just teach me about personality types and what that looks like in all these different tests. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners have gained value. And before we end, I just want to remind everyone the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you.
oh yeah, that's similar to a quote at the convention that I'm going to right now, and it says like,
Oh,
"Believe in the world your heart knows is possible."
oh, okay. Believe in the world that your heart knows is possible. Yeah, beautiful. So I hope those words can sink into our spirits and we not only say it, but we live by it. Thank you, everyone. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.